73 people entered the facility. 73 people were documented leaving, but only 68 cast shadows when they walked past the security lights. This archive shouldn't exist. The entire Griffin program was dissolved in 1979, and every document related to it was supposed to have been incinerated at Facility 19 outside Sverdlovsk. But here they are, 347 pages. Some of them are signed by people who died before the dates on the signatures. Let me start with what they wanted us to believe. Project Griffin, authorized by Special Technical Directorate, commenced operations January 1977 at Research Station Zima 7, Irkutsk Oblast. Objective: development of advanced acoustic suppression technology for strategic applications. Status: operational success. Program concluded September 1979 due to budgetary reallocation. Clean, boring. But there's a problem with this report. It's dated October 15th, 1979, 1 month after the program supposedly ended. Someone wrote a cover story for something that hadn't finished happening yet. Griffin wasn't about suppressing sound. It was about suppressing vibration itself. Every movement creates waves that travel through matter. The engineers at Zima 7 had developed something that didn't just absorb these waves, it erased them completely. The first successful test was logged on March 3rd, 1977. A technician dropped a wrench in the testing chamber. Instead of clanging against concrete, there was nothing. Not silence, because silence is still something. This was absence so complete that observers reported feeling nauseous. One vomited. Another said his heartbeat felt wrong, like it was happening to someone else. Test 07 demonstrates complete vibrational nullification within a 3-meter radius. Sound waves measured at 95 decibels outside the field registered at absolute zero within the suppression zone. Unexpected physiological effects noted. Recommend medical screening. That was signed by Director Petrov. 2 days later, he vanished. His personnel file shows him transferred to Moscow, but Moscow has no record of him arriving. His apartment was found empty. The investigation was closed within 48 hours. His replacement, Kravchenko, was different. Ambitious. The test schedule accelerated immediately. By April, they were running Griffin at higher power levels. The suppression field expanded from 3 meters to 12. They tested it on animals. The mice went first. They'd move normally for a few minutes, then slow down, then stop entirely. When removed, most were dead. The ones that survived refused to eat. They'd just sit in corners, perfectly still, until they starved. Biological subjects demonstrate severe neurological disruption when exposed to extended vibrational suppression. Hypothesis: mammalian nervous system requires constant feedback from environmental vibrations to maintain basic functions. Recommend limit of 5-minute exposure for human subjects. That's from Dr. Volkova, the chief medical officer. But here's what she wrote in her personal log.
They don't understand what they're doing. The field isn't just suppressing vibration. I watched a pen fall off a desk inside the suppression zone today. It fell wrong. Too slow at first, then too fast, like gravity itself was confused. When I mentioned this to Kravchenko, he told me to focus on the medical data, but the medical data is terrifying. The subject's neural patterns are changing, not damaged, changed.
June 1977. They began testing on human volunteers. Support staff who needed extra pay. Low-level exposure, never more than 2 minutes. The sessions seemed fine at first, but within 2 weeks, every volunteer had filed paperwork to leave Zima 7. The exit interviews are identical. Why do you want to transfer? Personal reasons. Can you elaborate? No. But listen to this. A maintenance worker named Dmitry Orlov being interviewed by the facility psychologist. Dmitry, you've been with us for 3 years. Exemplary record. Why leave now?
I can't hear my heartbeat anymore. I mean exactly that. Ever since the test. I put my head on the pillow at night, and there's nothing. I know it's beating, but I can't hear it inside my head the way I used to. Talk to the others. We're all missing something.
Orlov transferred out on June 23rd. He died in a car accident 3 weeks later. Single vehicle collision on a clear day. His wife said that in his final days, Dmitry had become obsessed with noise. He'd play the radio constantly, as loud as it would go. He said the silence was following him. By July, they couldn't get volunteers anymore. Kravchenko authorized the use of prisoners, political detainees. The exposure times increased. 5 minutes. 10. 15. The prisoners stopped talking. Not immediately. It would take a few days, but eventually they'd just stop. They could answer questions with single words, but they never initiated conversation. They'd sit in their cells perfectly still until someone made them move. One prisoner, a former journalist named Sokolov, managed to write something before he stopped talking.
It's still there when I close my eyes. That place where nothing moves. I can feel it pulling at me. Like I left part of myself inside and it wants the rest. The silence isn't empty. There's something in it. Something that was waiting.
August brought the first real accident. A technician named Yagorov was inside the suppression field checking sensors. Standard procedure, 2-minute limit. But something malfunctioned. The field didn't deactivate. Yagorov was trapped inside for 17 minutes. When they got him out, he was alive, conscious, but wrong. Patient exhibits extreme photosensitivity. Reports all sounds as painful regardless of volume. Refuses to speak above a whisper. When questioned, states that normal reality is too loud, too bright, too much. Yagorov was quarantined in the medical wing. Dr. Volkova's notes are fragmentary, heavily redacted. Day 3. Patient increasingly agitated. Claims he can hear things we cannot. Says we're all screaming without knowing it. Day 5. Patient discovered attempting to damage his own eardrums. Restraints applied. Day 7. Patient has stopped sleeping. States that in sleep he returns to the quiet place and can't find his way back. On day 9, Yagorov died. His heart simply stopped. All his organs simply stopped. In his final moment, he smiled. He said,
"Finally quiet."
September 1977. They built a second chamber, larger. The suppression field could now cover 30 meters. They constructed a small testing facility within the field, complete with living quarters. The plan was to study long-term exposure, to see if humans could adapt. They selected 6 prisoners, 5 men, 1 woman. The experiment was supposed to last 1 week. Day 1. Subjects report initial disorientation but adapt quickly. Day 2. Subjects moving more slowly. Response times delayed. All report dreamless sleep. Day 3. Subjects spend increasing amounts of time motionless. When questioned, responses are coherent but effect is flat. The observers noted something else. The subjects had stopped making unnecessary movements. No fidgeting, no unconscious gestures. They moved only when needed, and then with mechanical precision. On day 4, the woman, prisoner 7731, approached the observation window. She stood there for 3 hours, staring at the cameras, not moving. When asked what she was doing, she responded,
Watching you vibrate.
Day 5 brought communication breakdown. The subjects stopped responding to verbal instructions. They could hear, but they simply didn't react. One male subject walked to a camera and held up a piece of paper.
We can hear you screaming.
The observers weren't screaming. The intercom was off. Day 6. The subjects stopped moving almost entirely. They'd position themselves throughout the habitat and simply stand there. Hours without movement. Vital signs remained stable. They were alive, but they'd become statues. On day 7, something changed. The subjects were all standing, distributed evenly throughout the habitat, geometrically precise. Then they moved, all at once, turning to face the Griffin apparatus itself. One of the observers made a note that was later redacted, but still partially legible.
The subjects are oriented toward the source of the field with mathematical precision. Their positions form a pattern. The pattern matches the resonance frequency of the human nervous system.
Then the subjects began to speak, all of them. Same words, perfect unison.
Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off.
They repeated this for 46 minutes. Kravchenko ordered the intercom activated.
Why? You are scheduled for another 16 hours.
The subjects stopped. Silence for 30 seconds. Then one responded. But his mouth didn't move. The voice came from everywhere in the chamber at once.
Because we're not alone in here anymore.
They shut down the experiment immediately. The extraction team found all 6 subjects alive, unharmed by any measurable standard, but changed. The subjects wouldn't speak. Medical examination revealed nothing wrong, but Dr. Volkova noted something.
The subject's pupils do not respond appropriately to light. When I examined prisoner 7731's eyes, she blinked, and for just a moment I could swear I saw something reflected in her pupils, something that wasn't in the room.
The subjects were placed in isolation. Over the following days, they gradually began to move more normally, but they never spoke, and they never made eye contact with anyone. 3 weeks later, prisoner 7891 was found dead. No apparent cause. The autopsy revealed only one anomaly. The structures in his inner ear responsible for detecting vibration were oriented wrong. Not damaged, reoriented. As if they'd been listening for something in a direction that doesn't exist. The other subjects died over the following months. Same pattern, no cause, just cessation. Only prisoner 7731 survived. She's still alive. There's a quarterly medical report, updated as recently as last year. She still doesn't speak. But doctors note she moves her lips constantly, forming words without sound. A lip-reading expert transcribed some of it.
It's still listening. It's still there. It heard us. The quiet place. It's still listening.
After this, there should have been an investigation. Instead, there was acceleration. October 1977. Kravchenko received approval for Phase 2. They were making Griffin portable. The first field test was conducted at an abandoned factory complex. The plan was simple. Activate Griffin, suppress all vibration within a building, then detonate explosives to see if the field could contain the blast. They placed the charges, they activated Griffin, they triggered the explosives. The building didn't collapse. The explosives detonated. Seismic sensors confirmed this, but inside the field, nothing happened. The building stood perfectly still. When they deactivated Griffin 3 minutes later, the building collapsed instantly, as if it had been waiting. But that's not what bothered them. They'd placed cameras inside. When they reviewed the footage, they saw the explosion happen. But it happened in complete silence and in the wrong order. The explosion propagated from outside in rather than inside out, as if the building was collapsing backward through time. And in the final 3 seconds before the camera failed, they saw something moving in the debris, something that moved against the stillness. The engineer who reviewed the footage, Mikhailov, submitted a report.
Recommend immediate halt to testing pending investigation of anomalous visual phenomena. The object visible in the final frames does not match any known form of debris. It appears to be moving deliberately toward the camera.
Mikhailov was transferred to psychiatric evaluation.
Patient exhibits acute paranoia and insomnia. Reports persistent sensation of being observed. States that since reviewing the trial footage, he can feel something watching from the quiet places.
Mikhailov died in the psychiatric facility 6 months later. He'd disabled every source of sound in his room. Then he sat in the center and waited. The orderlies found him the next morning. He'd torn out his own vocal cords. Despite this, they continued. By September 1978, they'd developed Griffin M3. This version didn't just suppress vibration, it filtered it, selected it. You could choose which frequencies to allow and which to eliminate. They discovered that by filtering out all frequencies associated with biological processes, heartbeats, breathing, neural activity, they could create a field that suppressed only living sounds. They tested this on volunteers in November. When the field was activated, the test subjects became intensely disoriented. They could move, but couldn't feel themselves moving. One volunteer described it.
Like being a ghost in your own body. You know you're alive, but you can't prove it to yourself.
But the effect on observers was worse. When they watched someone moving through the bio-suppression field, their minds refused to process it correctly. The person appeared to move in stuttering jumps, teleporting rather than walking. One security officer, Baranov, described watching a test subject.
It wasn't human anymore. It had the shape of a person, but it moved wrong. Like a puppet with some of its strings cut. And its eyes were looking at me. But it wasn't seeing me. It was seeing through me. When I looked back, the thing in the field was smiling. But people don't smile like that.
December 1978. The final large-scale test. Griffin M3 at maximum output. Bio-suppression filter engaged, covering an entire city block. They sent in a team of 12 volunteers. The field activated at 1400 hours. The team entered at 14:05. For 10 minutes, everything proceeded normally. At 14:17, the first anomaly appeared.
Team leader to control. We have someone else here. outside the suppression field, watching us.
Control confirmed no additional personnel were in the area.
It's standing perfectly still. Too still. Like a photograph. Wait. It's moving. It's entering the field.
Control checked all monitoring equipment. No additional thermal signatures, nothing.
Team leader, we show no additional contacts. Negative, Control. There are now 3 of them. They're spreading out. They're moving toward us. They don't have faces. Where their faces should be, there's just smooth. Like they were never finished.
Radio silence for 40 seconds.
Control. Requesting immediate extraction. The figures aren't moving through space. They're appearing. One moment there's empty space. The next, they're there. They're surrounding us. We need to leave now. Team leader, maintain position. No, they're not in the field with us. We're in the field with them. This is their space. Control. They're reaching toward us. Their hands go on forever. I can see them reaching, and they just keep reaching. The arms extending, bending in places arms shouldn't bend.
Transmission ended at 14:24. Control deactivated Griffin immediately. Emergency extraction deployed. They found 11 members standing in a circle in the center of the test area, standing perfectly still. Eyes open, breathing, hearts beating, but not responding. The 12th member, team leader Orlov, was never found. His equipment was there, but no body. Just his boots, standing upright, laces still tied. The 11 survivors were brought to medical. Dr. Volkova's examination notes are clinical but disturbed.
Subjects are alive by all measurable standards, no physical trauma, but they exhibit no voluntary movement, no response to pain. Their eyes track movement, but there is no indication of comprehension. Most disturbing, when I examine their eyes, the image reflected in their pupils is wrong. It shows a room I don't recognize, dark, vast, empty, and in that reflected space there are figures, standing, watching.
3 days later, all 11 subjects began to speak simultaneously.
He's still there. He's waiting. He's always been waiting. The quiet place has always existed. We didn't discover it. We just built a door. And doors open both ways.
They repeated this for 6 hours. Then they stopped speaking. They never spoke again. Over the following week, they died one by one, exactly 24 hours apart. The autopsies revealed identical findings. Cause of death, unknown. Every organ was healthy until the moment it wasn't. But there was one detail not in the official reports. Dr. Volkova mentioned it in her personal notes.
When I examined the last body, inside the chest cavity etched into the heart muscle were words, microscopic but visible. They weren't carved there. They were part of the tissue, as if they'd grown that way. The words said, "Tell them we heard it too."
January 1979. Moscow sent investigators. The official investigation was brief. Facility personnel have been exposed to prolonged stress resulting in collective hysteria. Recommendation: immediate rotation of all staff. But there was a second investigation. Classified. Specialists surveyed the test area. Their report is mostly technical data, but there's a section marked Observational Anomalies. Team members reported persistent sensation of being observed. Multiple instances of movement detected in peripheral vision, but no source identified. Most concerning, audio recording equipment captured sounds at frequencies below normal human hearing. When shifted into audible range, they resolve into human speech. Russian.
Let us out. We're still here. Please, the quiet hurts.
The team recommended sealing the entire complex. Their recommendation was approved. But Kravchenko filed an objection. He argued that abandoning the research based on unverified acoustic phenomena would be a betrayal of Soviet science. He requested one final test. He would enter the Griffin field himself. His request was approved. The test began at 900 hours on February 23, 1979. For 15 minutes, Kravchenko's reports were normal. Then his tone changed.
I'm seeing something that shouldn't be here. The walls aren't solid anymore. I can see through them. Not physically, but past them. Like they're windows into somewhere else. And in that somewhere, there are structures, buildings. But wrong. The angles don't work.
At 23 minutes, his video feed began to distort. The observers saw vast empty spaces, corridors that stretched beyond possible distance.
Control. How many doors are in the test chamber?
2, Director.
Then can you explain why I'm seeing 7? And why 3 of them are open? And why there's something standing in the doorway?
At 31 minutes, Kravchenko stopped moving.
It's closer now. It's walking toward me. No, not walking. It's just closer than it was, without the space between being crossed. Control, when you look at the video feed, do you see me?
Affirmative, Director.
Are you certain it's me?
Kravchenko turned the camera toward his own face. The observers saw him, but his expression was wrong. His pupils fully dilated, and he was smiling. Too wide, too rigid.
I'm experiencing clarity. For the first time, I understand what we built. Griffin doesn't suppress vibration. It reveals what's underneath. The stillness that existed before the first sound. Before the universe began screaming into existence. We created a window, and I'm looking through it, and it's looking back.
At 42 minutes, his vital signs fluctuated wildly, but he remained standing, calm, still smiling.
I can hear them now. The ones who've been waiting in the quiet. They've been here all along, living in the spaces between vibrations, in the gaps between heartbeats. They've been listening to us, learning. And now, because of Griffin, they know how to speak.
The video feed cut to black at 47 minutes. The camera continued transmitting but showed only darkness. Perfect darkness. The audio continued, and Kravchenko's voice came through.
Tell Moscow this was a success. Tell them Griffin works perfectly. Tell them I've made contact.
His voice changed. Same tone, but something underneath the words.
Tell them I'm not alone in here anymore. Tell them the quiet place is full of us now. Tell them we're ready to come home.
At 53 minutes, the audio cut out. At 55 minutes, Griffin deactivated automatically. The extraction team entered at 57 minutes. They found Kravchenko standing in the center, eyes open, breathing, heart beating, but not responding. Just standing there, that wrong smile frozen on his face. Dr. Volkova examined him.
Director Kravchenko is alive, his body functions normally, his brain shows normal activity. But he is not present, there is no recognition, no response. His eyes are open, but they're not seeing this room. They're seeing somewhere else. I looked into his eyes. I shouldn't have. In the reflection of his pupils, I saw the test chamber. Empty, dark, but not quite empty. There were figures standing in the darkness, dozens of them, hundreds. And in the center, something that looked like him, same height, same build, but it moved wrong. It tilted its head at an angle human necks don't bend, and it waved at me.
3 days later, Dr. Volkova disappeared. Security footage shows her leaving the medical wing at 3:17, walking toward the restricted testing area. She was never seen again. Her final entry in the medical log, written hours before, is a single sentence.
I can't stop hearing it. The quiet is calling.
March 1979. Moscow ordered complete shutdown of research station Zima 7. The facility would be decommissioned and abandoned. The shutdown team arrived March 15th. They found the facility almost empty. Only 17 people remained, all researchers who'd worked directly with Griffin. The team leader, Colonel Petrosian, filed a disturbing report.
The remaining personnel are cooperative, but exhibit concerning behavior. They spend most of their time in the deactivated test chambers, sitting in silence. When questioned, they state they're listening. When I entered testing chamber 3, I heard something, like breathing. Slow, deep, rhythmic. But there was no one else there. The sound seemed to come from the walls themselves.
On April 28th, all 17 walked into testing chamber 1 at exactly 1400 hours. The chamber was empty, stripped of equipment. They arranged themselves in a geometric pattern, standing at precise intervals, facing the center. Then they stood there for 3 hours. At 1700 hours, they all turned to face the observation window simultaneously, and they spoke. All of them. Perfect synchronization.
It's time. The door is open. They're coming through. Thank you for letting us prepare the way.
Then they collapsed, all 17 at once. The medical team found them dead, all of them. No trauma, no cause. May 1979. The facility was officially abandoned. Research Station Zima 7 ceased to exist. But there were reports over the following years. People who lived in the surrounding area reported zones of complete silence that would appear without warning. Anyone who entered described being watched by something they couldn't see. In 1991, urban explorers found the facility. They documented their exploration with video cameras. The footage is available online. The test chambers were intact. Inside, the explorers found figures, standing in the darkness, perfectly still. Too many of them. 23 distinct shapes in a chamber designed to hold 6. One explorer approached a figure. The footage shows him walking toward it, reaching out. Then the camera goes wild, spinning, dropping. The audio captures screaming, multiple voices, all screaming the same word.
Run!
3 explorers made it out. The 4th was found 3 days later, standing in a clearing 5 kilometers away, perfectly still. eyes open, not responding. He died in the hospital 6 hours later. The nurse who was with him reported something strange.
He was staring at the wall. Then his eyes moved, tracking something from left to right, but there was nothing there. Right before he died, he smiled. He said, "They found me. I didn't think they would. But they always find their way back."
The facility was sealed by government order in 1994. Concrete barriers, military checkpoints, restricted airspace. The official reason was environmental contamination. The real reason is in a classified document. The area exhibits ongoing spatial-temporal anomalies. Zones of absolute silence continue to appear and expand. Remote sensing equipment has detected thermal signatures inside the sealed facility that suggest the presence of approximately 73 humanoid figures. This number matches exactly the total documented personnel who worked directly with Griffin and subsequently disappeared or died. The figures do not move. They do not generate heat. They simply exist, waiting. That was written in 2003. The file is updated quarterly. As of 3 months ago, the number of figures detected has increased to 91. 91 is the exact number of people who ever entered a Griffin suppression field and survived the experience. They're all in there now, standing in the darkness, standing in the quiet place, standing in the space between vibrations where something has always been waiting. The final document is a single page, unsigned, undated, found sealed in an envelope marked to be opened in event of facility breach. It contains one sentence. If you can hear the silence calling, you've already answered. I've been sitting in my archive room for 6 hours now. The climate control has broken down. It's completely quiet, no hum of ventilation, no distant traffic, just silence. And in that silence, I can hear something. Not a sound. The absence of sound taking shape, forming patterns, forming meaning. It's whispering my name. The Griffin program didn't fail. It succeeded perfectly. It opened a door, and doors don't close just because you want them to. The quiet place is real, it's vast, it's patient, and it's full of everyone who ever tried to silence the world. They're all still there, standing in the darkness, standing in the silence. And they're listening, always listening, for the next person who tries to find the quiet. For you.